of destinies to make them establish. So my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And also, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Amanda McGregor. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for your continued support and for watching the show live or at a later date, as it means a lot to me to connect with like minded women. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Rae, and I love to help women to crossroads in their life, heal their past, create their future, and transform their present so they can take charge of their destiny in the here and now. I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and I use future life progression, past life regression, angelic Reiki, guided meditation, and angel oracle cards to help women who feel lost get clear on their reason for being here. And I've also created several transformational packages, a journey through lifetimes, as well as a 6-week guide meditation series to help you step into confidence. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation or angel oracle card reading, with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Amanda McGregor, about how we can transform stories of trauma into light language from an understanding of how language can influence what we feel about situations. Now, Amanda works creatively with consciousness. She allows the creative spirit to touch, heal, evolve, and inspire through different forms of light language by enhancing creative inspiration, vision, well-being, and happiness through artwork, creative expression, empathy, intuition, and hypnotherapy. Now, personal development combines intuitive readings, clinical hypnotherapy, and past life regression for personal development, supporting the expression of the soul in creativity and communication. Amanda works as an artist, writer, in one to one and group facilitation. She is a curator of people, art, and environments. Amanda tunes into the true nature of people and situations to bring healing, security, growth, development, opportunity, and applied process, developing strong and productive pathways through a gifted, intuitive, and direct approach. And she is currently developing pathways of light language and mapping the different levels of consciousness mapped out by different forms of light language. Now, Amanda works with helping move past trauma bonds and narcissism in finding your magic story and purpose, so as to realize your value in the world and find the best avenue of success. Now, as well as previously working at Mysteries in Covent Garden, Amanda has published a book of poems and a book called Life of Bliss, which is a thesis of living in happiness and freedom with the valuable experience of guiding all thoughts and dictations. So, without further delay, hello, Amanda, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
Hello, Ray. Thank you for having me. I'm good, thank you. It's good to be here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. And before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Amanda and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. So, Amanda, why don't you tell us more about your journey and how we can transform stories of trauma into light language?
Sure. So I had my own journey of sort of complications growing up and trauma. And my journey really as a spiritual being didn't start until I was about 21. And I'd been traveling in India and I got salmonella poisoning and giardia. And when I came back to this country, uh, th- I was given a load of antibiotics. I was quite young. I didn't have alternative medicine knowledge and came from a family that wasn't specifically involved in that kind of way of thinking, and developed, of course, ME from too much, too many antibiotics and being run down. And I was studying art, an art degree, and eventually became paralyzed and had a year of isolation. Now, we all know what isolation is, but in those days, there wasn't, if you had ME, you were like the only one going through it. And have gone through isolation as a collective is such a healing thing for people that have had paralysis and ME. And of course, there's other people that are still suffering in these ways that are constantly in isolation for whatever reason. But I think that we've all learned the benefits, but also the pains of isolation and the extreme loneliness that can evolve, or the extreme spiritual expansion that can find its way. So at that time, it was quite a monastic experience for a 21-year-old. I was desperate to get my life back, so I would do anything to sort of improve my diet, to detox, to I got into Reiki and to different forms of holistic thinking. And I decided that if that my soul must have the answers of how to get out of my situation. And so I asked my ego to take a step back and for my soul to recover myself and my situation and to get me out of the situation. But I was quite surprised with what actually happened in the weeks that came after that decision. And it was a clear-cut moment that evolved where my Kundalini energy went into awakening, and I had a full-on spiritual awakening and became incredibly psychic and really found a whole other form of reality through the spiritual world and free-spirited life. But in that moment, I saw also the shadow side of spirituality as well as the light side. And for me, it was in the memories of initiation came through an Egyptian past life. And that was all fine. I had kind of a snaky kind of experience and all kind of priesty kind of thing. That was all fun and everything. But then I also experienced the demon side and the more complicated side that has taken me years to learn and understand and resolve. And so it's been a huge journey, understanding how to kind of bring order to spiritual life and how to process from the heart, take care, like communicate, and also work with one's own trauma and one's own healing. And then I've had radical experiences in those 20 years of life where I've had to reset, initiate into different frequencies and clear out and change and transform and go through kind of deaths to life processes in lots of different ways. And so I had in the same sort of time in my 20s, about 2 or 3 years later, I had a car accident where I was on the motorway on the M40 and a lorry pushed me into the fast lane and then another car hit me from behind. So it was only 2 years after that experience. And so I would say I was using my higher conscious to survive it and did so very well. And, you know, used the energy of the car behind to swerve away and to survive, and then took my I had all this geometric kind of stuff going on that I was completely guided, and I survived very well. I had a dream right up to that moment that taught me how to act with my hands, with my thoughts, with everything. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night with this dream, and it completely influenced how I survived it. Anyway, from then on, I went through a 4-year legal case, which made me see how difficult the system was, legally, medically, and in how they look at people with trauma and in how they relate to empowerment or not, you know, like how you're placed if something like that happens. It was totally decided that it was not my fault, the accident, but the way that they treated me legally was quite shocking. And so I was a student still. I was doing my MA at that point, my master's in curating. And yeah, I went to I found that I couldn't get any legal help. So I was in a student rented accommodation, and the landlady had, I'm just seeing if I have them here, but I don't think I do. She had a packet of tarot cards in her library, in her kind of, you know, in her shelves, her bookshelf. And I started to use them and read the booklet and just learn. And every legal letter I wrote, I used the tarot cards to work out how to deal with the solicitors, how to deal with the court witnesses, how to deal with all the people around it. And I spent a couple of years by then, you know, it was 2 years in, starting to move through the problem. I then found the College of Psychic Studies, and I signed up to various different things and found that their intelligence system worked for me. I could get inspiration, guidance, intuitive help, and I could learn all the different, courses. And it was 20 years ago, so it was a different place to how
Yeah.
it is now, but and quite front, it was a small community in those days. So I learned how to use, the higher conscious, how to work with the angels, the archangels, use vision, did mediumship, did various different forms. Anyway, eventually I was sent to a court witness in Harley Street, and he wrote this 10-page report, and I won my case. But I'd been sent all over the place,
Yeah.
and got some money and trained in holistic arts properly, holistic healing and regression, and especially a course from an American group that came over to this country called Guided Self-Healing, and also I did soul contract planning, and then eventually took that on, where I found a place to work in mysteries in Covent Garden. And I was actually doing art, but I found that the narrative of the artist and then the person to be much more interesting and to help them resolve their story. And then I found that by using empathy and reading and intuition, by reading their energies, there was a huge amount of transformation I could bring to a person. And so it started to elevate and enlighten, and my words seemed to have the power of healing and transformation. And so I saw thousands of people in Covent Garden, and became incredibly experienced at people's souls, and worked out a whole mapping system of all the different areas of the energy system and where to look to give people insight and inspiration about their lives, and to transform the lower vibration of fear, pain, and anger into a much more higher vibration energy, aligning them into a creative lifestyle that was full of magic and bliss, and clarity was the answer, was the outcome, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and I actually remember, and I'm pretty sure that I actually, all those years ago, actually visited Amanda. And and what's coming to me now, I think there was my imposter syndrome thing that we were
yeah,
talking about, and we worked out that although because my imposter syndrome thing was, how can I be spiritual in this life when I've not had any traumas or issues? And and I've had a complete normal life, and spiritual people have had near death experiences, or they've had they've been at rock bottom and going,
yeah, this catalogue of
help,
trauma. Yeah.
help me. And we realized, because I'd had it in previous lifetimes. So
Oh,
I'd gone
wow.
I'd gone through all of that in previous lifetimes, and I wasn't meant to go through it in this lifetime,
Yeah,
because I'd done it all. And this
yeah,
lifetime was supposed to be smoother for me to be able to help people.
yeah.
Um, that's yes, that now I
That's what
remember.
we worked out. Yeah, because I remember your energy so clearly, and it's true. But the readings come through with these amazing bits of information, and unless you're reading, you can't get the information. It just comes. You have to get into that space where you're channeling, and it's all there. And then suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, that is it. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Carrie Leakings, I'm going through it in this lifetime. Oh, bless you, Carrie
Oh.
Lee, and
I
that.
know. Well, as you can hear, I'm going through it in this lifetime, but I'm getting some spaces, and Rae is great at facilitating us to move up at the same time. So we're all in it together.
Yeah, we definitely are. And sharing stories and experiences is so empowering as well, and so uplifting and clearing as well.
Mm.
I think as well, from all the shows I've done, with my guests and that. So you ended up working at Mysteries, seeing so really enhancing your skills. You're seeing all those people and so many different types of traumas and issues.
Yeah, I mean, really, kaleidoscope. I was going to say rainbow, but I chose kaleidoscope because it's more like that, the world. It's like everything's kind of enmeshed into each other like that. But and then it turns into a rainbow, of course, after you've seen me, of course.
Of
But
course.
yeah, obviously. But yeah, like it was a real melting pot of culture, and you really like see insight into magic used in ceremony, in marriage, and like lots of different cultural issues to do with, say, arranged marriages, or to do with African magic, or to do with Chinese understanding of destiny, or like an understanding to do with business and development, or the traumas that happened in London, like had some severe, sad things to deal with. And then, of course, there's terminal life, acute illness that people are fighting, and all these kind of complications, or, a lot to do with the heart, of course. And
Mm,
it is worth getting insight. I really do believe in that way around relationships, especially if you're if things, you have some kind of attachment disorder. It's like, which means that you attract, say, something that never seems to work or sync. It is really worth getting insight to find out what's not syncing and why, and how to work with those energies to transform it. And so, yeah, I sort of became an advocate to myself in that way of realizing, actually, we can't see ourselves completely clearly. All the different stuff around us needs some kind of mirroring, and I seem to reflect in that way, like to give people those reflections where they could go, oh yeah, that's why that's happening.
yeah, yeah. And Carrie Lee King says, anything to do with awakenings.
So anything to do with awakenings in, so we don't know what that means exactly.
Yeah.
Can
So
she
so
add
so
to
if you
that, or?
yeah, can you just clarify a little bit, Carrie Lee, about anything to do with awakenings, and we'll see what we can what we can come up with, what we get, information we get um, for you on that. So yeah, so while she's doing that, let's carry on with your story.
So yeah, I think I was expressing the sort of all the expansion of all understanding all the different people, and then I found that there were strains of processes that seem to fly more, like using magic in business, or working with human resources, or like slightly more detective work, which I found actually a little bit more complicated to get right. But especially like, and then there's the relationship stuff, as I said, but especially the business stuff is quite interesting, doing readings around companies and organizations, and really getting a grip on the dynamics of that, and finding also different strategies to help companies to fly, really. I found that very insightful and very useful, and actually quite reliable as a system for change and transformation. And so, sorry, I've just seen, I can't believe you've just said kaleidoscope. I'm waiting on a brain MRI because of
Because of
these.
these.
Ah, okay. Yeah. That sounds like a hard place to be in. It suggests that you're seeing too many kaleidoscopes or something like that. But uh, I hope that it becomes clear what's going on through the MRI.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, the illusions and the sense of uncertainty around what grounding we're on is really difficult sometimes in the world. Like, what narrative is right? Is it the news that's right, or is it, we were talking about earlier,
mm.
like which stories fit together with proper evidence and grounding and truth? And I think that it's interesting in our own story, our own narrative, that we can, I've really realized that we can kind of build our narratives about ourselves, and sometimes we can overdo it. We can have too many past life stories, too many visions, too many thises and that's. And getting back into what it feels like to embody yourself and just feel and be present can sometimes, be important in this. But occasionally another narrative is needed to understand why there's an imprint, say a betrayal imprint, or a persecution imprint, or a sense of confusion around avoidance. All these things can easily be resolved if they're known.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And Carrie's actually clarified. Yes, I was wondering if it was through an awakening. Uh,
The
The
MRI.
yeah.
Oh, right. So, yeah, when I had my awakening, God, sorry. Yeah, you're right. There is a connection here. Lovely. So, when I looked in the mirror, like a real mirror, and it was like I had snake eyes that were going around like a kaleidoscope, and they were kind of orangey, and my whole eyes seemed to be envisioned like that. So, but that was simply a vision. And so I think that and it didn't last forever. It was just a part of the awakening. I mean, awakenings can be very powerful, and you do need support to come through them if they're moving faster than you're ready and they're scary. And it is important that you talk to the right people about getting help in the right way, because obviously not all doctors help in the right way. So I do have some key people that help people with weight. Like I have, for instance, a psychiatrist that fully understands me, that I help if we really need to calm things down. She's there as a guide, as well as me working in straightforward alternative holistic ways and hypnotherapy ways and energy ways. And so we're very protected. We keep a protective environment. So one has to be very careful with awakenings to stay grounded, and it is important just to tune out and go to nature, and like just tune into nature to make sure that you've grounded all the energy and it doesn't overwhelm. But yeah, mine was incredibly complicated in that way. And now I have a very clean system of dealing with demons as well, that's like straightforward, because a lot of demon energy is a mask. It's to do with a past life story, a narrative that where one person has formed resentment and anger and frustration against you and your past identity, and to magnify those feelings, they take energy from, say, demon or evil or darkness or the shadow. And so if you take that mask off them, then you're just into a normal relationship. So I asked them to release all masks in visions, and I took years to work out, and I worked it out from multiple hypnotherapy sessions and working with people post awakening that were struggling with demons. And it's been kind of almost my life work working out how to do that in a straightforward way, because it's so complicated.
Yeah, it sounds very complicated, and there's so many different energies um,
Mm.
around that we're having to deal with all the time, and try and discern which energy is, is right, is wrong, is kind of like, yeah, it can be so complicated, and it can come out in so many different ways and forms. It can, be really sort of like, awakenings can be really scary, or they can be unicorns and butterflies and
And all heart, there's plenty of people that just have heart awakenings, is just full of love, and they're
yeah,
great.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like your
So
heart opens and you're just in love.
yeah,
That's
which is great. It'd be nice if everyone could do that, but then that would be boring.
Yeah. And then
We
each part, it seems each part of your body can have an awakening, from what I've learned. But I haven't had every part. I've had about 3 parts.
yeah, yeah, from there. So where did you move on from there then?
From
So you
mysteries. So I
yeah,
then I'd seen over about 5,000 people by that stage, and so I just became independent. And I work I work still opposite Selfridges. There's a dance studio. I work above that, and I just allow people to get in contact through me being there, or through online, just communication and just word of mouth. And so I rebuilt practice from that perspective. And of course, recently it's been more online. And apart from the first year was complicated with how people were responding to restrictions, and very serious in that way. And then this last year has been more about rebuilding the light language of moving beyond trauma bonds into a space where light becomes color and the fragmentations of color and sort of the kaleidoscope becomes mandalas, so it's more positive. And then we're also working with poetry. I do that a lot, and these higher levels of consciousness involving our hearts to communicate into ways of rhythm and movement and a kind of dance of life, a ritual of life, but through expression of sound and visuals, and how that moves into a place of understanding. And then I've just recently moved it up into the light language of the star seeds, which, as you know, is about Syrian and Acturian and the Palladians and all the rest of those ones, which enables us to really look at our eternal being as a starseed of God and in our presence of stardust. And when you really believe that, you get beyond trauma again, because a lot of trauma happened on Earth. I have trauma from Sirius, definitely. I have past life memories from that, where I felt so helpless when Sirius died, and I'm struggling with Earth losing its sustainability in that way. But the main lesson I learned, like a human lives and dies, so does a planet, and there are often beings and bodies of people or things, animals that are not a sustainable object on a planet. And the planet is stronger than us. Basically, it will take care of itself. We may not survive it taking care of us itself, but that's a different issue for us to deal with. And that's how much we care about our own human race, and how much we're willing to do to protect ourselves in that way. Like, are we willing to become, well, I know we are, but like in kind of humanity terms, as a globe and a collective, are we willing to transform our relationship to the earth into being protectors and ambassadors of the earth, like directly to inherit the earth directly, so that we take care of it with its legacy?
Yeah. So how did how did the light language come into you? And I know there's a couple of people watching that kind of like light language things are coming to them at the moment. So how did you kind of like recognize or understand the light language, and that you came from Sirius?
So again, it was kind of a logical response to getting away from the trauma bond. I sort of got into this space where I lost quite a lot of people through the restrictions of COVID, and I needed to reset myself. And I actually also needed to trust patriarchal systems, which sounds crazy to really want to trust them.
Yeah.
Like, why would I want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
why would
I
you?
went there. I was like, let's experience what it is to trust patriarchal systems. So I'm still like working with that one, as you can
Yeah,
imagine.
might be a little while.
Yeah. So uh so in that, though, it's interesting because I actually reframed Christ conscious in a different way as well, and I allowed the Holy Spirit to influence a bit more. And in that guidance, funnily enough, I was reminded of my entire soul history. And I once did a session with a client where we went back to the Big Bang, and consciousness existed before the Big Bang, kind of thing. And we were there, and we were just part of everything and completely at peace with everything. And there was no karma. And so it wasn't until matter came that we had karma and we had trauma. And so in trying to release ourselves from trauma bonds, it's quite useful to step out of where trauma came from. And so by going back to the starseed stuff, which is after the Big Bang, where there was planets and life on planets and planetary alignments, you're not completely done with trauma, because things go wrong on those planets as well, as I said. But you've started to get a much more distant relationship to the deep pain and suffering, and you start to get more perspective, and then the language that comes just starts to activate. And I started to just embrace my own language as a Syrian being, my own dialect, and talk in these in this it's the Acturians that really supported it, actually. This dialect where everything kind of had a sound and a feeling and a accent, and it stopped being about triggering trauma and started to be about healing the energy and the rhythms of trauma. Yeah, that's what I would say it was. So you can bring the language in, which is it's not like English, it's not a
Yeah.
language that we recognize, but it's a healing language,
Yeah.
a light
And
language.
yeah, and I mean, when you listen to it, it is absolutely amazing, you know. And occasionally, I will spontaneously sort of like if I'm doing sounding or something, where you know, if I'm teaching angelic Reiki and we do some sounding for clearing, you know, occasionally I might suddenly go into light language. No
Yeah.
idea what I'm saying or anything, but it's like okay, I'll just go, just go with the flow. And I think a lot of people do that without realizing that they're actually bringing through light language.
Mm. Yeah, I think that, I mean, I'm having some come through now. It's like sometimes you can just sit with it and it flows through and you don't have to start speaking it. And then sometimes it feels appropriate to speak it. And then you're like, oh, okay, just go with what feels right at the moment with the client that you're with, kind of thing. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So if someone comes to see you, how do you normally work? You know, how do you normally work with them? Do you automatically do light language, or do you do artwork, or you know, what would you
Well, light
do?
language has really become a big, like, I think it's more of a trend over the last couple of years,
Mm,
really, where it's like really taken off as
mm,
an understood, like there's an understood kind of direction with it, where the starseed stuff in us is purposefully coming through to protect the earth and
yeah.
humanity's position with the earth and to help us get into alignment, really. But so in this country, I don't normally get a call saying, "Hey, will you just give me a light language?" I normally get it from another planet, like from another source, like from that other zone of like YouTube or like another zone where like star seeds are gathering and talking in a community and starseed souls, and they all spar off each other, and then you kind of get to know each other, and then I start to share what it feels like and how beautiful it can be, and then there is this understanding. So that what I did was with my main clients, I started to share it. But so my main clients, I might give them a business reading or a reading about, say, relationships or like where they're at in their life. It's like a coaching session, but it takes my readings are like coaching sessions, but they're readings instead. And so then if it comes through as a healing kind of, I can feel it all beginning to build up, a healing kind of resource, it starts to sort of pump out in that direction. The energy
Yeah.
channels through.
So when it started happening, what did you kind of like go, "Oh my God, what was that?" Or was it like, "Oh, okay, this is interesting. Let's see where I can go with this."
I was really welcoming it, so I was sort of challenging myself to do it, to just see how far I can go with it. And I've always had voice issues because I've been healing from the persecution trauma thing as well. So I've always been a bit nervous about how my voice sounds, and it's completely weird when all my work really does revolve around my voice. And then there was the thing that like the Acturians are really into song, and I just love, like, I just would love to be able to belt out as an opera singer or as a singer in like in a proper like trained way, but I'm so not that person. And then I started to use this beautiful crystal singing bowl to align my chakras with sound, and I started to just stop wanting to be an amazing singer and just make just one note that came from the right like level of vibration. And that started to work, and it was really, as I said, the Acturians that really like were like, okay, you can do this, you can like just be that simple of just one note in each chakra, just hold that note and then build that energy like a singing bowl, like each chakra. And I did that, and it was like really powerful, and it worked. And I shared it with some people. I said, look, do you think I'm stupid doing this? Is it out of tune? What am I doing wrong? They're like, no, this is okay. Keep going. And I haven't gone past single notes or single words or that way. I can't sing like an opera singer, and I can't, bring a huge kind of vocal range into action, but I can move it into another level of consciousness where it's starting to move up into, I mean, to do light language, I visualize a sense of eternity. So I have an infinite point going up and down. So up into the sky, into the star system, and then source is right at the end of that pinpoint, like a star at the end. But it's my infinity. And then my infinity and my roots goes the other way. And that's what I need to be. And then the different levels of awareness start to activate and open up. So then you've got your whole range of consciousness, where you've got like the 12 levels of consciousness all operating together. And for me, it's important to also be in the Big Bang as well, as because that's where the beautiful downloads come, where it's healing energy without karma.
Yeah.
And so you get this beautiful kind of feeling of just relaxation. I can feel it now. I'm just to be careful, I'll just go back to sleep kind of thing.
Yeah. Which we're not going to allow, because we're Amanda and I are going to do something together in a little bit. So keep that. So how did you've got a book of poems published, and
Oh
you've
yeah,
got
I've
a
got
book
that
published.
here. Look.
How did they come about?
These poems, oh gosh. Yeah, it's really funny actually if you read the story behind them. So I have an attachment problem. Seeds of Light, this is called. It's on Amazon. I have an attachment issue where I attract avoidance, which means that I'm constantly in conflict with my boyfriends because they're always like really annoying avoidance. And so to like not be in conflict, I had to just develop a whole language that was light. And so I developed poetry to explain my position and why I was annoyed that they were constantly avoiding me. And I developed this amazing kind of verse with it all, where they'd just look at it and go, seriously? And then they could digest it, and then they could like show up to me in a better way. And then sometimes it would be like the end forever because they were avoidance, so like they
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to form a meaningful relationship in the first place. And sometimes it just meant that it just calmed everything down, and other times it meant that we could like properly work on stuff. But most of those poems come from seemingly dysfunctional relationships, but when you read them, it's not like that. It's like you get a grip of just different experiences within a relationship. But that's the truth.
Oh, that's a beautiful way of sort of like putting out, and of course people have issues with their relationships, and one of those poems that resonates so much with what's going on in that relationship at the time. And how
Yeah,
about
exactly.
and how about the book?
So A Life of Bliss is this book. It's all back to front, I'm afraid.
Oh no,
And again
well,
on Amazon.
in this way, it looks actually the right way around.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah.
So A Life of Bliss, it was written after Mysteries, after spending all that time with various different people. It's not their case stories, it's not their stories at all, but it's what I learned after seeing so many people. And I decided not to go down the road of stories of people because obviously it's everyone like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And although I could be like clear on case studies, it's more about like development tools for yourself in how to become more intuitive and use different forms of meditation and sensory perception to empower yourself in your life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's absolutely brilliant that you've managed to get yourself published twice. Uh, on
Well,
the
they're self-publishing, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, but but you've done a lot of us do, sort of like think, I've got to do it, but I've got to do it, but we never actually get
Yeah.
around to actually doing it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it just sort of, it was, it's like a spiritual thing. You just know what you have to do. And I just didn't want to lose all that. Like, now I can't remember everything I learned. Like, but then I could, and I was like, I don't want this to be a waste of time. This is valuable information. I'm actually going to do, though, a second edition where I update, say, stuff like the demon stuff, where I've got like some clarity around bits
Mm.
of it, and there's a few little other areas that I want to sort of finish off, but it will remain the same book, but just like in a more cleaner way, kind of thing.
Oh, cool. That'll be your something
Mhm.
to worth looking out for and that
Yeah.
in the future. So watch this space, everyone.
Mhm.
So as most of you that watch my show regularly know, that each week either myself or my guest will do something, or we'll do something in collaboration, and quite often mine will be either mini guided meditation or angel oracle cards. So we kind of like were chatting earlier, and we kind of like thought, you know something, let's do a combination of the card and maybe some light language. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a card for Amanda and everyone watching. And then we'll see what guidance we get from that, and then we'll see what light language wants to come through
Mhm.
to see to see what healing or any information that wants to come through. So, what does Amanda and everyone who's watching this, whether live or the replay, need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? What does Amanda and everyone who's watching this live or the replay need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? Okay, so where are we going with these? We're going with that one. You're going to love this. Mystic healer, healing energy flows through you.
Oh, lovely. Well, that gives me quite a lot of space to go then.
It does. I mean, how perfect is that for, what we've been talking about as well, in that healing energy is flowing through.
If you just hold that there, I will literally go off it though.
Yep.
If you can. Uh, Ikanu isaki atu akani anokila ikachikamana akachakapata ilapu akuni ata la mina ki tu isakumina alu ati akima chikalo lakinaki tu tikatu e waki anokila isi atu awaki tu iman ikani ichika ikapu elanu esika atika chika pu kanali awaki tupanu a kula a rikanika tu iki achi sikamane latika awaki a rikanika laki pa chika iki asiku ilikani a chikapo inu iti asikawaki po anokila iki atikapulinu nichaki asukila hachu iki apu asikitu anoki ali amanitu isu alu aku chikani aki azuki asikala lakina ati tiku ichi ako asu alu lokila nokila aloni lonina I ati apokishi asikapo anati nakala lachika asikapo ati tikatu ali ana asuki parineti chikaman inakila anokitu asi atukala aponina kipo chikapo atikali anokita inakitu tikapa lakisu anakitu azika kikachikapo ani ama alokiti asi awa tokima nokilu Asika po ati anoki la azu. Azu ati aloni mani. No sikali. Azi apo aza. Alona. Azu kitani nali. Achikapa. Tikani alika. Anokitu azika. Aloni mani. Atikalu ano itikala lakinani anoki achikapo awa nokida tika anokila azi ako achikamani anokila azi aki ano apo atikapali azuni nani atu achu asi azukina. So we just let that energy dissolve into the ground and the earth, just feeling the earth underneath our feet and just allowing ourselves to be at peace with the energy that's come through, feeling its grounding and its power and its magnificent presence. Thank you.
Oh no, that was beautiful, and I really felt it was kind of like there was stuff working on my energetic on field, and it was like I knew what was being said. I knew what information was coming through. I can't express it, but
Well,
I felt I
let's
knew
let's
that it
open it
was.
up and see if anyone in the chat box can like say if they had a vision or if they heard anything, if they saw anything, and then if there's more that you can explain while they're writing it, then that might be quite interesting.
Yeah, Diane says thank you, and
Thank
Eric's
you.
watching. Hi, Eric, coming in. Yeah, so if anyone who was listening, did you, what was your experience? I mean, it's really difficult for me to actually put
Put
put it
into
in
words.
to put it in words. It was just kind of like it was just my energy just seemed to it felt like my energy was kind of like changing and being upgraded and being uh, being tweaked slightly, and it was like I kind of like knew what was being said, but
Mhm.
I can't put
So
it in
I
an
did have
English
a few
mood.
visions at the same time, and so sometimes there's more visions and less visions, but it basically was bringing order to everything in the interview that we were talking about, from like the pain of the heart to the like grounding to how to protect yourself while living on Earth, to rebuilding a foundation of security with your core energy as a being on Earth, and finding a place that is integrated with the sea and the land. And there was a huge energy like bringing like how the sea meets the land and how it's like it's one, it's like it's sort of molded into one, and it's like humans need to have that relationship where the physical and the water, like the sense of water and physical, like we're water and we're physical, and the land is the physical and the water's the water. How does it sit together? And it's like a container, but it's also a life form, and it's a vessel, but there's a flow to it, and it's sort of there was a really deep kind of emergence into it, is what I felt.
Yeah, there's definitely yeah, Eric says, I'm really looking forward to going back and listening to all of that. It was beautiful what I managed to hear. And what he did say was one thing that came to mind was the like a beach where the wind was really blowing, and just whilst you were talking, I was kind of like, yeah, it was this kind of like a merging and sort of like
Mm.
yeah, yeah. It was absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing. For sharing that with us. And it's also with the card as well. It's saying, obviously Amanda and everyone watching, healing energy is flowing through you, and it's allowing yourself to open up and accept was that healing's coming through, that you can send it out into the world. And that's kind of like what the information sort of like was coming in as well was, you know, allowing yourself to send that here, allowing that energy to come to work from a higher level and come through and going out um,
Mm.
into the world, and kind of like weaving a pattern. Um, it's kind of like all I can say on that one. So yes,
Yeah,
that was
thank you. Yeah, that's a great insight.
yeah. So, and if you are watching this on the replay, still put in, what your experience was, because both Amanda and I will be coming back to look at any comments. So do share your experiences if you feel you can, if you're able to express them.
Yeah.
And Eric says, "Oh yeah, we're 10% agree with that right now." Yeah, which is absolutely perfect. So thank you. Eric. So, Amanda, do you have any insights or thoughts to leave our viewers? Any last words of wisdom?
I think that the energy that just came through was this pure liquid light, a white light, and it was just feeling that vessel, that it came through us as the vessel, and then brought us into nature and the earth, and it's just that feeling of that constant source of inspiration and light and love. It's just like, hold it with your heart. It's like it will clear you out, it will lift you, it will make you feel the beauty all around, and like you are innate in that way. You are beautiful. You are the source. You are the source. I think that is the message.
Yeah, yeah, totally. We are all the source
Mm.
of everything, and we are all one. So that's beautiful that you've actually put that into words. So thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing your wisdom. So I hope everyone that you've enjoyed this and found it insightful, because I know I definitely have. The conversation today has been absolutely brilliant. So Amanda, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that? What's the easiest way of them to connect with you?
So if you use my name, Amanda McGregor, you will find my website, and then you will find different ways of communicating, through email or phone or whatever. I have amandamcgregor.com or belovedlight.com. These two are fine to find me.
Yeah, perfect. And what I'll do is I'll put the direct links into the comments after the show,
Mm.
so people can just literally click on them and go straight to the website, so they don't have to go round and search. And Diane says, thank you so much, Diane, and thank you so much, Eric, for being here, and also thank you. Carrie Lee, for bringing your information, and obviously Neelam. Thank you for watching, Neelam, on there. So yeah, it's been brilliant, and all of you joined in. And of course, for those that are watching, if you need if you've reached that crossroads in your life and you need some guidance in finding the meaning of your life and getting clear on your path, or working on your spiritual growth, then I would love to be that guide for you. So please feel free to reach out and connect with me, and we can arrange a free clarity call to discuss where you are now and how you can move forward to actually take charge of your destiny. And of course, please feel free to join our weekly newsletter and receive a free future life progression recording, where I take you into a future lifetime to get guidance and clarity that you can use in your current life, as well as a couple of other three free gifts. And again, I'd like to thank you all for watching. And Eric says, thank you both. Blessings to both you guys and all who see this. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining in. And I would like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more women and men who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny, just like you, and need to hear this message. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to be notified when the show goes live, or I post new guided meditations. And I really look forward to see you joining me, same time, same place again next week. So again, thank you everyone for watching, and thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing your information, your wisdom, and the light language for it.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful being here, and just great to like talk to your audience as well. It's like lovely to see so many people really inspiring.
Yeah, beautiful. So take care,